Hello and well met. This is Layron with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to create some content that's more horror themed. I've been trying to mess around with some assets. I created some content earlier that is related, and I'm going to go ahead and check out some functionality in Fantasy Grounds and also talk about some of the tools that you might want to use, and then also some methods on how to import and create this content. So one of the things that's difficult to do in most rule sets in Fantasy Grounds, it's not entirely difficult, but it's a little bit challenging, is to make NPCs and then also items. There's really no quick way to do them, although Smiteworks has built a tool that allows you to import an NPC stat block into the DnD5e rule set. But it's also that if an item is going to be created, it's better if you just use something else as a template and then enter the data. So I'm going to start with an artifact that is themed for this particular content. So what we're going to have is a artifact. It's the Bloodstone, and yes, it was inspired from a movie long ago. I think it's Full Moon Entertainment's. I think it was called The Bloodstone. It was a vampire type movie, kind of grade B movie, but really good, kind of a good cult classic. So what I'm going to do first is open up the items section, which I have over here on the right hand side. And I've created my own group. So you do that by using the drop down arrow, clicking the plus button, and then you click the edit button and change the name. So I got a section here called this is called Horror Creatures. So I want to create an artifact, which in this particular rule set for the DnD5e, it would be considered a wondrous item, not necessarily a sword or a shield or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is create a new item, but I want to just grab something that's already a wondrous item and go ahead and take a look at this. So there's templates up here on the top right. And if you look at this, this has a bunch of different things that you can use as a starting point. So there's this amulet of proof against detection and location. There's a bunch of different things in here, like this bag of tricks. All I really want is the actual layout. I don't really need the text or anything in here. So what I'm going to do is just make a copy. The only books I have loaded right now is the DnD5e SRD. I don't need Curse of Strahd and all that other stuff. I'm just using the real base rules and kind of coming up with my own stuff. So this is going to be changed into something else, but I'm going to make a copy of it because right now it's locked. It's read only. So what I'm going to do is drag this copy back into the list where I found it. That was right here under this bag of tricks. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this and drag and drop it, and it will make a new entry, basically a copy of the item below. So when I open this up, now I can unlock it, so it's now in an editable format, if that's a word. And then what I'm going to do now is going to start messing around with it. But before I do that, I want to make sure that the item itself is going to be in the category that I created. So I'm going to go to uncategorized, and let me see. Let's see, all. I want to make sure I got this here. So let me drag and drop, make sure I got this right way. And if you go to all here, and I got this in the templates area, but if you take a look at some of these things, you can find that you're going to have this. So I'm going to take this particular item here, which is under the templates, and I'm going to bring it over to the Horror Creatures. So I want to go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to drag and drop this here, and I'm going to make a copy of this in the items. So let me go to all, and then uncategorized, and I want to see if this shows up. So bag of beans or something like that. So bag of tricks, that's what it is. No beans. Okay, so bag of tricks. Okay, so made a copy of this, opened it up, close all this stuff. And here's my bag of beans, and I'm gonna go ahead and unlock it. And then this is the actual entry, and it's already halfway set up for me. It's uncommon. I'm gonna put very rare. It's gonna require attunement. It's a wondrous item, and I can put some of the descriptions in here, and then I can erase all this stuff and kind of start over. So what I want to do is first take the item and drag it from where it is now into this category. So I'm going to drop down the list, not select anything, just drop it down, and then drag this entry into my new category. So now it's part of my new group that I've created. And now I'm just going to rename it. So this is going to be Bloodstone, comma, artifact. And this is going to be the starting point. And then we're going to say something about it, like some kind of lore. It's a wondrous item. It's uncommon, but I'm going to call it very rare because it is. Very rare. And then in parentheses, requires attunement because it has some magical properties. And it can only be used by vampires, so it's a very special, unique item. And I would have to say for gold piece value, it's probably worth at least 100,000 gold, if not more. I'm just giving it a value, because if you don't, and you put it in Fantasy Grounds as a 0 cost, or you put it in as a number that isn't going to register, or some kind of thing like that, it's going to be a pain in the butt to sell or distribute the item in the party sheet. Because if it has a cost range, it's not going to calculate the value of it. So you have to put in a final cost for magic items. And then on top of that, it's good to have a description. And what we're going to do is take these out because this is no longer the bag of tricks. And then this whole thing right here, including that link, is going away. So this is what we're left with to start with this artifact. So the non-ID name is going to be some sort of descriptive name, and then I might put some notes here. So I'm going to go into my content and take a look at what I have for this. So it's a wondrous item artifact. Okay, so we're going to put subtype artifact. You don't have to, but that kind of differentiates it from a lot of the other stuff. It does requires attunement, and it says by a vampire, but that won't count, so I'll just leave it like that. We'll put that stuff in the notes. It's gonna weigh more than a pound, so probably like 3 pounds. It's pretty heavy. It's almost like a crystal ball, but it's smaller in diameter. And let's see what else we got. It says the Bloodstone is a dark and mysterious artifact. Its surface a deep crimson that seems to pulse with an inner light. It is cold to the touch, and those who hold it feel a faint but insistent tug at their life force. So this thing's pretty nasty. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the description. And what I'm going to do is just extrapolate. So it's a dark, let's see, it's a crimson, a deep crimson stone or something like that. I'll just say a crimson. I don't want to get too wordy because I'll say a crimson stone. I'll say a glowing because it does kind of glow. So this is going to give someone a, you know, when they share this item before it's identified, that's the description they get. It's just a glowing crimson stone. And then that's basically what will appear for the players until the item is identified. So when you click on this non-identified thing and you share this with your players, it's going to give them just this non-ID name. So I'm going to unlock it for now and continue with what it does. So here are the properties. It's got quite a few. I'm going to have to, let's see. I'm going to copy and paste the content that I have for it. Okay, so hit copy and paste. Okay, then right click. Okay, so now what's going to happen is Bloodstone is a dark. Okay, we already have that. Okay. So here's the properties of this thing. It's kind of cool actually. Let's see. So hit 2, Control 2. Okay. So it has life siphon. So that is essentially it slowly siphons the life force from living beings within a 30-foot radius. So it'll affect animals too. Good aligned creatures within this radius takes 1d4 necrotic damage at the start of their turn. This damage cannot be reduced or prevented by any means. How crazy is that? So that's pretty nasty. So if you go near it and you're a good aligned creature, it's going to hurt you a little bit. It's not too powerful, but yet it's still one of those things. Vampiric sustenance. So what it does is it allows a vampire that's attuned to the bloodstone does not need to feed on blood to sustain itself. The stone provides all the nourishment the vampire needs, allowing it to exist indefinitely without the need for sustenance. So it kind of has like a kind of a benign property there where the vampire can kind of live somewhat of a normal life within reason. It has a healing power, so once per day the attuned vampire can use an action to touch the bloodstone and heal 1d6 plus 1 hit point. So it has a little bit of vampiric restoration, I guess, instead of healing. Dark powers. Once per day, the attuned vampire can use the bloodstone to cast one of the following spells at 5th level without requiring any components. So it has darkness, Bane, and protection from good and evil. So these are spells that I will link here in a little bit, and that's what you'd want to do, is you'd want to have copies of those spells and then link those to the object. In this case they're from the SRD, so I'm not going to worry about it, but if you're going to make an effect or you want it to be a little easier for your players to use, you'd want to set up all this stuff ahead of time if you can. Sunlight vulnerability. So it has some problems with sunlight. So if the bloodstone is exposed to direct sunlight, it becomes inactive and all its properties cease to function until it's once again in darkness. So it doesn't like sunlight too much. So the ancient origin. So this is the backstory of... Oops. So the bloodstone... The origin is lost to history, but it is believed to be tied to the very creation of the vampire race. Its presence resonates with ancient power, and it has changed hands many times over the centuries, so it's been around for a while. And then sentience, the bloodstone, it continues, let's see, it possesses a minor sentience, let's see, and an unknown dark presence. It does not speak or communicate, but those attuned to it can feel its malevolent hunger and inscrutable will. The stone's desires and intentions are a mystery, but its power is undeniable. So it's got some kind of intelligence to it. Its destruction. So the method of destroying the bloodstone is unknown. It is believed that the artifact's destruction would require a ritual of great power involving elements that are anathema to vampires, such as holy water and sunlight, etc. So it does have a way to destroy it, but no one has discovered that yet. And now for the background. So it has a backstory, a little bit. So the bloodstone has been a coveted artifact amongst vampires for centuries. Its power to sustain a vampire without the need for feeding has made it both a blessing and a curse. More recently, Lilith, who's going to be one of our NPCs, has come into possession of this ancient relic, and its powers resonate with her dark nature. The stone's presence is a constant reminder of the ancient and terrible lineage of the vampire race, and its insatiable hunger mirrors the eternal thirst for those who wield it. Its dark powers grant the wielder control over shadows and protection against the forces of good, further enhancing its allure and danger. The Bloodstone's minor sentience adds an additional layer of mystery and intrigue, hinting at a deeper connection to the dark forces of the world. So this is a kind of its little backstory. It's just an artifact that could be used in a game, and you could actually make a whole quest, like a whole adventure around it, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of the process there. And the other thing you can do is, if you have artwork, you can link it to the object. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to take and edit this a little bit, and then maybe put link the image down here underneath the description. I'll just link it here. So when you have your images set up, I'm going to go into images, and I don't have those imported yet into my campaign. But what you can do is go to import down at the bottom, and then you navigate to the folder wherever you have it stored. So in my case, I have a folder for this particular asset, or for this particular thing here, and it's a horror thing. So let me see if I have that still. Oh, I know where it is. So I've already moved them over into the asset folder in Fantasy Grounds. So if I come up here to assets, and then I go to images, there's a campaign folder. If I open that up, it'll have the Bloodstone. So here's a picture, a preview of it. So this is the artifact itself. So what I'm going to do is import that. So I'm going to create an image record. It's going to end up over here in this category that I've made. So create image record, and now it's an actual item. And then with this item, we're going to take it, and I'm going to unlock this, and I'm going to use this glowing crimson stone thing for its description up here, because it's not identified yet. And if it is found, I can still share the image, but it's not going to give away the title of it yet. And then with that, I will take this and link it down here, and then just highlight this, and there we go. So this is what you do essentially when you want to link things. And one extra step that you don't have to do, it might be even get a little messy, is I will take the item itself and link it to the photo. Nothing wrong with that. It might cause like some confusion, but at the same time, like if you pull up this picture and you want to get to the item right away, I can click on that. It brings up the item right there. I don't have to dig around looking on other sheets and stuff. So I do that for myself to make life easier on me in Fantasy Grounds. Why not? Because you can link those together. So the item is linked to this picture, and the picture is linked to the item. So it's linked both ways. So it should be able to, I should be able to get to it no matter what I'm doing in Fantasy Grounds, instead of having to go through the list or all that stuff, you know. Plus, if it's being used in an adventure, it'll be linked somewhere in the content as well. So you have different ways that you can connect the items. So this is the Bloodstone artifact, and this is what the vampires use to sustain themselves when they are not able to feed. And it's only one vampire at a time, so you can't feed a whole army of them. It's only for the main vampire. So I'm going to go ahead and close this for right now. Now that we have that established, now I'm going to start building the other content for this particular adventure. So I'm going to bring up the NPC import tool, and I already have a bunch of NPCs that are formatted correctly, that have the correct word and verbiage and the keywords and all that good stuff, because that's really how this thing works. And if you don't have it set up properly, it is definitely not going to be very helpful to you. It's going to just aggravate you and make you mad. So what I'm going to do is go and copy and paste a stat block from one of my NPCs. So this first one is, these first two, I should say, are zombies and shadows. So basically, when someone is killed in the name of Lilith or around her, they can become undead, but not like vampires. You know, these are going to be individuals that were the tragic remnants of those who crossed paths with her. So she didn't directly kill them. She may have caused their death, but she didn't actually bite them or attack them necessarily. Or she might have attacked them, but she didn't really get a bite on them or claws or anything. She just kind of roughed them up. So the zombies in this case are physical shells of those who died in violence. And then the shadows were ones that were tormented souls of those who succumbed to mental trauma. So those people took their own lives, or they died of shock or whatever. So these two types of deaths create two different undead, and it just depends on the way they die. So I'm going to hit Control Copy, Control V as in Victor, and I'm going to take out this background thing because I don't want it to throw off the parsing of this stat block. And then here are the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and go to Cleanup. That gets rid of any extraneous spaces. And basically this is a shadow, victim of Lilith, medium undead, chaotic evil, armor class 12. So it has all this stuff. It looks right so far. I'm going to check. There's a couple places where these things get messed up quite a bit. So like this Amorphous, that needs to have a period after it. Shadow Stealth needs to have a period after it. Sunlight Weakness, there's another period. And then there's a separate section for actions, which is a strength drain. So it has that, but I'd like to know where is its... oh, it's because it's a shadow. I was going to say, where is its other actions? So that is basically the action. It's basically just a shadow NPC, but it's a little bit flavored towards the content. And that's where this backstory comes in. So I'm going to put a title up here and hit Control V and then hit Control 2 after highlighting it, which will help this stand out. So now that I'm ready, I'll hit Import, and this is what it looks like in the stat block form. And I'll just take a quick look at it just to make sure it's right. I don't have a token for this because I think I'll probably end up just using a generic one. I don't really need anything specific unless I want to go that far. But it looks like everything parsed correctly. And then if I go to the back screen, there's a summary. There's a little backstory that I created. And then here are all those standard stuff. So it looks really good. So that's the first of many creatures. So this is a shadow. And now we got to do the zombie. So I'm going to open up this import text again. And again, I'm going to find my stat block. I have another screen that has all the text on it. So let me see if I can find that. Okay, so here's the zombies. They even got less stuff. They're pretty basic. I mean, there's nothing special about these. They're just kind of themed for the adventure. And just that backstory is kind of what really makes them any different. So I'll go ahead and recopy the same, because the blanket statement for both of them is going to go on this NPC stat block, because it's kind of similar and they die, you know, different ways, but it mentions both of them. And then I'm going to put a header up here, and then of course I'm going to turn it to a header block. You hit highlight the text and use the shortcut Control 2, and that changes that to this red bold lettering. And then I'm going to right click in the stat block area, click on Cleanup Text, which it'll do automatically anyways, but I like to take a double take and a look at this before I move on to make sure it looks right. And then it does look pretty, yep, it looks right. And you'll get used to what looks right and what doesn't after a while. Like the way the stat block is lined up, that's something that always gets broken. Up here where it says medium undead, neutral evil, sometimes it'll be like medium, comma, undead, comma, and that'll throw it off. So you got to be careful. kind of get used to looking at the stat blocks to see what you're actually looking for, and that takes a little time to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit import, and so far it looks pretty good. So there's a slam attack, undead fortitude, yeah. So there's our basic zombie and shadow. So these are kind of like, you know, minor minions that have died in or around her lair, or perhaps in an area nearby where she had a confrontation, and that's where these guys usually hang out. So this is a kind of a, just, I don't know, cannon fodder, however you want to look at it. Probably not the highlight of the adventure unless you start getting into quantity. So that's something we can deal with later. So there's two monsters right there. Now for the next creature, let's see what this is. Oh yeah, vampire fledgling. So this is a creature that has recently been victimized by the vampire Lilith, and they're essentially kind of on the cusp of changing to a vampire. They're still kind of stuck in the middle. I kind of changed the lore a little bit to kind of fit the narrative here, but I'm going to go ahead and import this stat block. So we're going to click the import text tool, these little lines down here under NPCs, open this up, and then hit Control V as in Victor. And then I'm going to take this background part, all of this stuff, the lore and stuff, and hit Control Copy, Control V. I'm going to right click and clean up the text. Do the same on this side and get rid of the extraneous text because I already placed it where it needs to go. Right click, and that kind of gets rid of those lines. I'm going to look over this, make sure that weaknesses, forbidden. See, this forbidden has these two colons. You can't have that. You got to have a period after it, or it's not going to parse. Harm by running water, same thing. It has colons instead of a dot or a period. Stake to the heart is another thing. So these are things you got to look for when you're importing text. You got to have that period in there, otherwise it's not going to work. So here's bite is good, claw is good, multi-attack, traits. Yeah, so far this looks pretty good. Now I'm going to come up to here again and go to background, and then hit enter because I want to put a space in there. And then I'm going to put a vampire fledgling, which is what this creature is. So we're kind of working our way up to the big boss, or the big bad evil guy, or in this case woman. And we go to 2 there, and Control B. Okay, so a vampire, let's see, playing tactics or role-playing notes. Vampire fledglings are recent victims of Lilith, trapped in a horrifying state between life and undeath. They retain memories of their previous lives, but are consumed by a terrifying hunger for blood. They are often scared, sad, and confused, torn between their human emotions and their new vampiric instincts. So a vampire fledgling appears much as it did in life, but its skin is pale and its eyes are haunted. Its fangs are newly formed, and it may still wear the tattered remnants of its mortal clothing. Its movements are hesitant and jerky as it struggles to control its newfound strength and hunger. The fledgling's expression is one of torment and fear, a soul caught in a nightmare from which there is no escape. So this is the fledgling. So I'm going to go ahead and hit import. And looks right so far. Yep, it looks good. So the bite, the multi-attack, all these other traits, like stake to the heart. And then the other tab, yeah, this looks really good. I really like the way the import tool works when it works for you. When you're still kind of learning how to use it and what to look for in the formatting, it's kind of useless. You're like, what the hell? But after a while, you get used to it. You go, oh, okay. And once you get kind of a rhythm and understanding of what the stat block should look like when you import, it really makes this type of work a lot easier. The only thing is that depending on the source, the text is going to come to you in various formats, and you're going to have to fix it. And that's just an unfortunate side effect of parsing in information from the outside into Fantasy Grounds. If it's not formatted for Fantasy Grounds, you got to go in and fix all that. and you'll get used to that. It's not something you know overnight. You just got to practice and use it. And that's part of what I'm doing here, is practicing using the platform and getting used to the tools and using the tools to help me create content. And that's really all I'm doing right now. And I just try to show you some of the steps and the processes and the headaches that go into this, because it is a little bit of work, especially when you add in artwork and all that lore and everything else. It can take a little while. So this is another thing, is this bloodstone artifact. I didn't put it in the correct location. So here it should be in this horror creatures thing, but it's not. So I'm going to drop this down and link it here. Now the problem with doing that is if I bring up that item again, so let me go to the item itself, you might have to relink it. So if you have things in different folders, you rename stuff or you move it around and you don't refresh it and then relink everything, it's going to break potentially for your players or for whoever gets the module, or even for yourself, which is more annoying than anything. So I'm going to go back to the item that I made. Get rid of that. Okay, so here's the bloodstone artifact. Now let me click on this image. So fortunately it did come back, but I don't trust that. So I'm going to relink. So I'm going to take because I already have it loaded in here, so I'm going to relink it because I don't trust it. If you change anything in Fantasy Grounds, make sure that you're going to relink this. So all I'm going to do is take the link for the image for the bloodstone artifact, which is this thing here, and I'm going to drag the link back over on top of the other one. Even though it opened that link up, I don't trust it, because I've had it to where I had all the images linked together, and for some reason it was giving me an error once I loaded the module up and tested it. And I was like, God dang it, what happened? So my guess was that I had moved some images around for different and put them in different categories, and then I linked them before that, and then I decided, oh, I need to put this there here, and after I already had it linked to the content. You want to get out of the habit of doing that. You want to make sure that everything is linked properly, and you want everything organized before you link anything. To be honest, you don't really want to link anything until everything's built, and then you link it at the end. But I'm kind of doing it as I go, so I can show you how this goes. But if you do this, you know, and you keep skipping around and you put an image here and then you change something, and then this is where you lose time and you get really screwed up. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're making content for Fantasy Grounds, especially if it's a commercial product or an official conversion. You don't want to get caught up in doing that. So I'm going to go, this is the artifact, so I'll go ahead and close that. But the image is linked here, but I also linked the artifact to the image, so that way if I accidentally close that when I'm playing or even when I'm working, it's right there. I don't have to go looking for it again. So that's a nice feature that you can do in Fantasy Grounds. I mostly do that for myself. In a commercial product, I might do that depending on what it is, especially like if it's maps that are connected to other maps. I'll link those together, but I may not necessarily do that for myself in my own game, because I'll know where everything is. But nonetheless, that's just the way to do it. So back to NPC. So I'm going to go back to the NPC importer. And this time, let's see what I got up in queue here. So that was the fledgling. So I'm kind of going up the hierarchy here. Fledgling versus the boss, that sort of thing. So that was the fledgling. So what is this next thing? Oh, these are the creatures of the night. So even though these are specifically like just low-level, low-ranking beasts or creatures, I'm going to go ahead and put them in the module to make it convenient for myself if I'm going to run this adventure, because it's a pain in the butt if you don't have these things in there, and then you got to dig through the monster manual or whatever source material you have when you're running the adventure. So this is just a bat, but I call it a shadow bat. Really no difference. But I'm just going to go ahead and take that, and I want to make just the title, because I don't really have anything specific for these guys. They're just minions. I could make a little bit of lore for them and say they're tied into the vampire Lilith, but I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit import, And yep, so that looks right. And then you go back to the summary. Yeah, I didn't need that extra thing in there, so I will erase that, because sometimes you don't need it. It already has that title. There we go. So, lesson learned. So there's the shadow bat. So these things are going to be linked to like an encounter or maybe a generator. So what I might do is take like the bats, the mice or the rats or whatever, and the wolves, and make small encounters with them or a generated table. And what will happen is when you pull up the NPC stat block, those will be linked on the back, like on the other tab here. And then I can just generate the encounter straight from the NPC. And you can even base it off the number of PCs that are in the party, or you can just make it like 1d4, however you think it's going to be useful to you. And that way it's convenient. So when you're running the NPC and they have these type of things where they can summon creatures, you have those linked already on the back of the sheet. And I'll show you that later if you stick around long enough. So here's the shadow bat. I'm just going to go on to the next creature. Let's see, what is the next thing? So that's the shadow bat. So it's probably the rat or the one of the other creatures. So let's see. Oh, the night wolf. Okay, yeah. So a night wolf might be 1d4, just so it doesn't get out of hand. But a bat might be like 1d10 or 1d12 or something, because you know it's really not very harmful. It's more annoying than anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the NPC importer, hit Control V, and looks like everything looks right here. And I don't need to put this header here because it'll already make one. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, clean up if any, hit import. Take a quick look at the stat block and then hit the other tab here, see what that looks like. Looks good. So there's the night wolf. That's one of the children of the night that they can summon. So that's kind of what we're working on now, so that we can have those at the ready. So when Lilith is in play, when you're using it, you're not going to be scrambling, looking around for it, having to open up the player's handbook, you know, that kind of stuff. Because that's where you start losing time. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just annoying, and it slows things down. So, you know, it happens. But try to, you know, I'm trying to avoid that. If I'm going to run this thing, I don't want to deal with that sort of drama. You don't. It's like you're creating your own problem. You know, it's just, if you're making your content, make it work for you. You know, don't let the platform run you. You got to run the platform, because that's generally what happens. Is you get so wrapped up in trying to figure it out and get all pissed off, and then you don't want to play anymore. I mean, that's what ends up happening. So this has got some lore here, which I probably will put in with the other ones now that I see this. I didn't realize this was here. But this is the creatures that can be summoned by Lilith and are typically under her control, acting as her eyes, ears, and enforcers in the night. They are imbued with a shadowy essence that makes them more attuned to her dark will. So there is a little bit of lore attached to these. So I will go ahead and fix those, but now that I have this here, I'm going to go ahead and hit import, and I'm going to copy and paste that because I want to use that in the other ones. So hit import, and yep, there's a melee attack, languages, yep, and then hit the other tab, yep. So that's the plague rat. So we got a rat, bat, and wolf. So those are the children of the night. Now I'm going to go back to the night wolf, unlock, go here, come back to this area, and I'm just going to put the summary right underneath there. That way it's right at the fingertips of the GM, and they don't have to look anything up or dig around looking for that stuff. And do the same thing for the shadow bat. There we go. So that's just a little bit of lore that kind of goes with it. The reason I would do that is if it's themed for a certain campaign or adventure. Otherwise, just use a regular bat. But I kind of want this to be a little bit more unique and a little bit more themed for whatever your content you're making. So it's kind of like how they had the Strahd zombies for, for Ravenloft. They kind of had their own unique take. And I like the idea that I made up for, depending on how they die is how those things are created, like the shadows and the zombies. Those are pretty much some of the lowest level undead. But when you die indirectly from the mechanizations of Lilith and her minions, those things, when they die from the horror, whether it be physical or mental, that's what changes how they're formed. So that's why I did that. I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more unique and more or less flavor. It doesn't really do anything mechanically, but role-playing wise, it certainly can open up some opportunities. So that is the Shadow Bat. Okay, so Shadow Bat, yep. There's the vampire fledgling, the zombie, the shadow. Okay, so we're starting to get to the better stuff now, or the cooler stuff. Alright, so what is this? Oh, this is a thorn shroud. This is an evil tree. It's like this tree I have here on the center for my theme here, and this gothic horror thing. So it's one of these creatures. I do have a separate token that's a little different, but this is essentially what these are. They're just basically evil treants. So I'm going to go ahead and import it. So hit Control Victor, and then take the background again, and I'm going to take that and put it on the right hand side because that's where that goes. And then I'm going to hit this Enter to take a space in there. And then this is the Thorn Shroud. See, this is called Thorn Shroud the Blight Ringer, but they're actually just the race is just a Thorn Shroud. But he has a unique name because he's like the boss of, all the different creatures. So I'm just going to put his actual name up there. And then right click, clean that up. And then I want to get rid of this, which is okay, that's the background that I moved over here. So this is going to be bold, and this. Okay, so these creatures are essentially a treant, maybe a little bit more powerful. I don't remember what the stats are, but they have a slam attack. They are a CR9, so you wouldn't want to mess with too many of these, maybe one. Proficiency bonus of +4. They have the false appearance where they can appear like a regular tree if they remain motionless. Thorn body. So this is a little bit different. So the creature that touches them, the Thorn Shroud, when it gets hits, like with a melee attack within 5 feet, they'll take damage from the thorns, because you're basically hacking into this thorn bush type feature that it has, and it hurts. So, and these things are pretty nasty. I mean, these thorns are like daggers. They're not tiny. It's not like sticker bushes. These things can be used as siege creatures. So, if you're going to lay siege to something, they double their damage to objects and structures because of their makeup and their power. They have a multi-attack. They get 2 slam attacks. They have a grasp, which they can like hug you, or so to speak, and they can restrain you. They have a thing that recharges called Creeping Tendril, which recharges on a 6, but it can go out about 60 feet. The initial reach is 10 feet, but it extends up to 60 once they lash out. And then it does piercing damage because it's got thorny stuff, and the target has to make a DC 16 saving throw or better, or be pulled up to 20 feet toward the Thorn Shroud. So it kind of pulls them in. And then it has a once per day ability where it can magically awaken 1 or 2 shrubs or plants or saplings or bushes within 60 feet, and it can awaken these plants to act as minions. As long as they stick kind of nearby, like 120 feet, or they don't die, or the Thorn Shroud doesn't die, they're active. So it's kind of a powerful creature. So this thing is more like a guardian. So I don't see it running around chasing people too much, but if you go in the forest or the wilderness nearby where the vampire has her lair, this would be a good kind of deterrent for going in there. So maybe have a couple of these on either end of your forest. That'll keep people out of there. So that's just kind of what this is about. So once that looks like it's good, I'll hit import, and there we go. So this one I did make a token because I figured it was important enough and unique enough. And I'm going to go look at the other tab. So this is where I'm going to link the image. So underneath this thorn shroud, I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to link a picture of the thorn shroud first. So I'm going to make sure I have that first. So I want to go into the images. And then I don't have it yet in the campaign. So I want to go to the assets. I did import it already. And then go to images, campaign. And I think this is the one. There's two of them. There's one here that this is the one I'm using for the cover. But then there's this other one that I'm going to use for the token and for the NPC. So this is one of the other thorn shrouds. So I'm going to take that picture and link it up to here, but I got to add it to the image assets first. So what I'm going to do is open that up. You can click create image record, and that puts it over here. And once it's an image record, then I can link it to this sheet over here. So what I'm going to do is put tree creature before I link it, and this is going to give me the non-identified name, and then I'm going to click on that, and this is the title, or what's going to be shown first if you show this, and then I'll link it there, and there's the link to the image. So if you want to share with your players what this creature might look like, you can even put, effects on it, make his eyes glow, do some pretty cool stuff. So if you wanted to do something like that, you can unlock it, and then you go to the lighting tool, and you don't need line of sight or anything. This is just an effect. So go to the effects button, and then down below, the effects layer, and I'm going to use the drop down, and maybe make some mist if you want, or rain. Let's do some rain. So rain, I don't know, it doesn't look as good in Fantasy Grounds, but it does. Actually, some mist probably would look better. So let's see what the rain looks like. Yeah, actually that doesn't look bad. I'll turn down the amount, but turn the intensity up a little bit. Turn the speed down a hair. And then the direction of the rain is coming from left to right. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And now I'm going to add a light to it. So go to the lighting, go to add light. I'm going to use the drop down. I'm going to use candle because doesn't have a very big radius. And I'm going to change the hue or the color and use the eyedropper, and then I'm going to match the color of the eye and hit OK. And what will happen is when you go to share this image for the first time with your players, they may not see that. Let me see if I did this right. Doesn't look like I did. God dang it. Let's see. So I'm going to turn off this stuff temporarily. Yeah, I didn't place that right. So there we go. So now go to candle. Change the color changer, so the color picker is going to pick this reddish part out, kind of a reddish orange. Hit OK, and then click on these eyeballs. There we go. Alright, so now when I go back to here, that's what they're going to see. And then once that, once they're able to actually engage with it, or they put some light on it, then you can just turn off this, and there you go. So this is a way to kind of make this interesting. I like that, where it's completely black, and then they hear the sound, and then they see that, and then when they start fighting it and put some light on it, then you go like that, they can see it. So you kind of unveil this thing in steps, and that'll make it interesting. So anyways, that's one of the things you can do to kind of make your content stand out and not be so generic and boring. And then I'm going to actually add the token. So I have a tokens folder, and it's under the data folder, which is where all my tokens are stored. And that's also the top level in Fantasy Grounds. So it's not the campaign That's the actual top level. And I'm going to hit custom. And here are my horror tokens. Now I'm going to drag this particular token and replace the letter T. So now it actually has an official token. So this is the Thorn Shroud, the Blight Bringer, Blightbringer, and then you have your image that you could share with your players. And then, like you said, you'd see all these this rain over the whole thing. So if you don't want that, because it's all over this whole thing, what you can do is go back to the effects. I should have done this beginning, and go to the rain layer, unlock it, and what I want to do is put a mask on it, and then draw where I want the rain to come down. So just around this image. I don't want it over the whole screen. So that isolates it to that area. That way it's not over the whole thing. And then when you go to share this and unlock it and stuff, then you're not going to get that rain effect all over the whole image. So that's something you can do to help yourself. So anyways, there's the Thornbringer thing. So we're getting more interesting creatures now. Let's see. So that's the Thorn Shroud. What else do we got? Wow, I had several. Okay, so this is Lilith's hybrid bat form. It's a nightmarish vision of her beauty and terror. So this is one of her forms. I'm going to create, this is a hybrid bat form kind of thing, where it's kind of a little of both. So I'm going to bring up the NPC stat block. I'm going to hit Control V as in Victor. And then again, I'll take this information and hit Control V, and then take this stuff out. And then I'm going to right click and kind of fix the text a little, like kind of take out the spaces. And I'll highlight this, hit Control Copy, hit Enter, and then Control V as in Victor, and then Control 2 to make that, and then right click, clean this text up, and hit Control B and Control B here. There we go. So this is just the starting information. Now I want to go through all of her stuff because, yeah, so vampire weaknesses. Okay, so that looks right. That looks right. What I'm looking for is that missing period. See, this is messed up. No, that's right. Claw, bite, grapple. Yeah, so far it looks good. Traits, vampire weakness, and then these are listed under the weakness, so that makes sense. We'll see how it parses. And then here are all the other things. So this is Lilith's hybrid bat form. So I hit import, and we'll see what happens. So did it? Yeah, it took the weaknesses correctly. I was afraid that it was going to try to create those as separate abilities or features, but it's not. Okay, so it looks good, looks good. Okay, so I have some pictures of kind of like a hybrid bat form. Probably need your guys' help. If anyone's on watching, I need your help with some art decisions here. I'll give you a couple examples, and then we could decide what content we want to provide with this. So I'm going to present you with two pictures. One of them is kind of a bat creature, and then one of them is kind of, well, you'll see. So I'm going to go over to the art area, or actually assets, and then go back to images, and then campaign. So what I have here are various photos, different stuff. So this is essentially what I was going to use for like her hybrid form, but it really doesn't look like anything but her, you know, essentially. And this is her actual like photo, and this is more, the other one's more cartoony, so we'll have to decide later which one we want to use there. But this is the bat creature thing, the hybrid form, and then this thing here is the full Monty here. So I don't know, to me, I don't know. I like the bat face because I don't think that matters between both the, you know, the picture and the NPC so much, but you know, you got this other thing here, and then it can be a little distracting. So I might use this for the image, but then use the same token for the hybrid and for the creature, because there's like the full bat creature, and then there's the upright humanoid one, and then there's her like human form. So these are just like this one here. I like this one a lot. So this one has some pretty neat details to it. It's like she's up in an attic somewhere, or some kind of chamber, and then she's kind of crouched down on this bed or something down below. And you can see this hand right here. It's like a corpse or a dead body. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and create the image record just so I have it in the campaign. So even though it's in the assets, it's not part of the campaign until I add it to the actual images area. So I'm going to hit create record. And then I'm going to, I'll just say bat creature, and I'll unidentify it, so the first time I share it, it's not going to say bat, vampire, demon. And then after that, I'll link it to this area if this is the image I'm going to use, but I don't think it's going to be this one. I think it's going to be the singular one. And this is just an example, so I'm going to bring up this thing and add it to the campaign record. And this is another version of it where I've taken and, you know, here's a picture of her before she's changed. And then I can also link this stat block to the image as well. So if I want to bring up the stat block, it comes right up. I don't have to dig for it. And then I have a token. So if I go to the tokens assets, go to data, and then this is where it really helps to be organized, because when you're doing this and you don't know where stuff is, it's a real pain in the ass to do. So I'm going to take this data, this bat custom token, and drag it over here, and that's the actual token for it. And then this artwork that's sitting here, I'm going to put it underneath her title in the back of the stat block. And then I put these effects on there so that when I share this, they'll see these eyes first, and then I'll unveil it when necessary. But you can do that, and they can, oh shit. So this is the creature itself. So yep. So this is bat creature, and unidentify it like that. So yeah, that's really cool. All right, so that's one of her forms. So she's got 3 different forms. So when it comes to running something that complicated, you're going to want to probably link the other 2 stat blocks to one another. So if you want to switch from her one form to the next, be easier to link those back here in the back. So I might make a little section called forms, and then just have the other 2 links here so that I can just pop up the stat block really quick. That way I don't have to constantly dig around looking for it, try to find out where I linked it. It'll all be on the back of her sheet here, and then the same with the other. So when I go do the other variations, it'll be easier to pull those up. So that it can get confusing though, it might be overkill, but it definitely can be helpful when you're running a campaign or a game. You don't want to look for stuff in the middle of the game. So that's good. So we'll close that for now. And let's see what else we have here. So go to, let's see, what is this? This is, okay, this is the actual bat creature. So the entirety, this is the actual bat. So this is her, you know, her 3rd form. The other one we did was her 2nd form. So going back to this, go to open that up, Control V, take this stuff and paste it over there. Get rid of this stuff. Don't want it anymore. And then right-click to clean up the text a little bit. And then I'm going to put my title up here. So this is her bat creature form. So when she's in her fully, you know, anthropomorphic form or whatever, that's her second form. But when she's a bat creature, this is what she is here. So there's 3 different forms essentially. So I highlight the text, hit Control 2, which changes that header. Then highlight the background, hit Control B, and then highlight this detailed appearance, Control B. So these are more roleplay stuff. So what it says here, it says play and tactics or roleplay notes. Lilith's bat creature is a fearsome hunter using its powerful claws to grapple prey and its bite to drain life. It swoops down from the shadows, attacking with deadly precision, and then retreating to strike again. Its grapple is a terrifying display of strength and control, and it serves its mistress with an unwavering loyalty and ferocity. So that I'm going to have to change because it's actually her, but there are other bats that are not her that would use the same stat block. So that's why it says that. But here it says the bat creatures is nightmarish fusion of bat and vampire with leathery wings, sharp claws, and eyes that glow with an unnatural red light. Its fur is a deep, glossy black, and its body is muscular and sinuous. Its screech is a chilling, otherworldly sound, and its presence is a palpable aura of dread and malice. It moves with a grace and precision that belies its savage nature, and it serves its mistress. Yeah, there we go. So it's kind of repeating that, but it's really kind of creepy. So it has claw attacks. It can make 2 claw attacks and 1 bite, so it has 3 attacks essentially. If both claws hit the same target, the bat creature can attempt to grapple the target as a bonus action. So if both claws sink into the victim, it can essentially use that bonus action, or it can use the bite. I don't think it can use both. But the grapple is a bonus action, so the bat creature attempts to grapple a target that was hit by both claw attacks. The target must succeed on a DC 15 strength saving throw or become grappled. So this will parse. You can drag that onto your guys, and then or onto your targets. And then the echolocation screech, it has this thing where it can see. It basically cannot be blinded, and then each creature in the area must make a DC Constitution saving throw, taking some thunder damage on a failed save. So the screech itself, like, pretty much makes your ears bleed. That's pretty crazy. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I just make that bite and or? Because it gets 3 attacks, right? So I'm thinking, if it does the grapple, it can't bite. If it does the bite, it can't grapple. What do you guys think? Because it's kind of powerful, and you know, it's kind of a minion too. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that. I guess it depends on how you want to play it. But when you're fighting with something like this, and it might be 1 or 2 of them, and you got a crew of like 6 people, I don't know if that's fair or not. If you can have 3 attacks and then a bite. You know, that doesn't make sense to me in a way. I don't know. I think if I was to run this, I would probably just say, no, you can do either the grapple or the bite. I mean, you're getting the 2 claw attacks already. And when it does bite you, it's got like a drain or something like that. Yeah, it's just really powerful. And I don't want it to necessarily... And it has regeneration on top of that. So, I don't know. But it tries to come down and you know, zap you, and then it takes off. So it's pretty nasty. But I'll go ahead and hit import, and I might just use the same token because I don't want to make the next one. I don't know. Maybe I'll make it later. So I'll just leave it at that for right now. I don't want to get too lazy. And then this is just the summary. It looks really good. Everything looks like it's in place. So I like it. Alright, so last but not least, we're going to do the last stat block, or I think it is the last one. So I'm going to hit the import tool. I'm going to copy and paste Lilith herself as a vampire. So that's her bat creature. I don't want that. Okay, so Lilith is kind of like this vampire queen or princess or something like that. She's pretty powerful, like a vampire lord. Maybe a few less hit points. I mean, that's about the only difference. And then everything else is kind of all vampire-like, but a vampire lord. I don't think she has spell casting, but other than that, she's a vampire lord. And I don't remember what the difference is between a regular vampire and a vampire lord, but I think some of them have lair actions and the other ones don't, so don't quote me on that. I don't remember. But this is going to be the main stat block for Lilith, the vampire queen. And we just gave her a title because we know she's a vampire, she's a ruler, she's top notch, so that's why she has that title. Doesn't necessarily mean she's queen of all vampires, but pretty close. Let's see, so that, and then we got her background, and then her appearance. And then come down, I gotta get rid of this background here. And then right click and clean that up, so. Okay, so let's take a look. So far, this looks right. So she's resistant to necrotic. Vampires are tough. 120 feet, dark vision. She speaks common, abyssal, and infernal. It's a CR7, proficiency of +3. She's got the typical vampire weaknesses: forbiddance, harm by running water, stake to the heart, sunlight sensitivity. She's got misty escape, which she can transform into mist. She's got spider climb. She's got a regeneration. And then her actions, she gets 2 attacks. She has a dagger. And then she has charm. And then she has the Children of the Night thing that we talked about earlier, where she can summon 2d4 swarms of bats or rats. But it doesn't say anything about the wolf, so we might leave those out, but maybe that's a different thing we can use. Lair actions on initiative count 20. If losing initiative ties, Lilith takes a lair action to cause one of the following. So she can phase through the floor or wall and appear at any other spot within her lair. So one creature charmed by Lilith uses its reaction to move up to its speed and make 1 weapon attack. So could potentially be compelled to attack one of your allies. And then she can summon a shadowy figure to make a melee attack against 1 creature she can see. So that would be one of those shadows. So glad I made those, because that can be a pain in the ass to run this and you don't have that ready. So I'm going to go ahead and import. It looks right. Our lair actions, we'll see how it imports. So sometimes the lair actions don't quite come over. Like, yeah, see this, it didn't, let's see, what is that? Yeah, it didn't come over like I had hoped, but it's not that hard to fix that. So see, this is her lair actions, and it didn't parse those in for some reason. And that's not a big deal though, because I can just take this and go to lair actions, and then I can just copy and paste this, because all it is text. It's not really a lot of parsing going on. And then I will, let's see, I'm going to put Lilith's lair actions. I think that'll do it, because everything else looks right. Yeah, it's set up there. The only thing about it is, yeah, it's not too bad. So it's not really anything like mechanical, so I don't have to worry about that. Alright, cool. So here's the actions, they're parsing. And then here's the thing I was going to tell you about, this is a swarm. So it says 2d4. So what we could do is create 2 encounters with those 2d4 things on it already. So we don't even have to deal with that later. So what we're gonna do is somewhere, I don't know exactly where I'm gonna put it. Let's put right here towards the top. So I'll just put children of the night. And then children. Gotta put an L in there. Okay, so children of the night. What we're gonna do is make encounters. So what we'll do is I'm gonna open up the encounters. Let's see, do we have? Yeah, so here's the encounters. They're blank right now. And I gotta give Lilith her token. So let's do that now, so I don't forget. So again, I'm going to assets and images. So this is for the image part of it, not the token. So under the campaign images, I'm going to bring up that beautiful, gorgeous photo. So I had a couple variations. So what do you guys think? Should it be this one here, this kind of this white gown, or do you like this one with the dark gown? Because both of those could potentially be her. It's supposed to be really charming, beautiful, alluring. That's why she kind of has this. I don't know why she has the clothing that she has on, but I think I kind of like this one because it looks more innocent and it's less, I don't know, less racy, I guess is the way I'm looking. And she looks more normal here, but in this one, she looks like she's out to get someone. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that, but that's Lurk. Hey, Shmuel, how's it going? So this is probably takes me more time to do this than to actually do anything productive. So I'll go ahead and just create the image record, and I'll have them at the ready. So if I change my mind, you know, I could, yeah. This is crazy. This is kind of thing that, you know, it's a good problem to have, but it can be annoying too. All right, so that is the art for that. And then the token, we'll go to tokens, we go to data. I think I'm gonna have to use the darker one. Let's see, custom, horror. Yeah, this is the one I used, so I'll just use that picture. So that decides it for me. So I don't want to make a whole nother thing. So there's the token. And then the artwork itself, if I bring up the images, yeah, stunning vampiress. Yeah, that's going to be her. And there's her bat hybrid form. So yeah, I'll just use that one. The racy one. One with the sexy lingerie. All right, so there we go. So that's the image, and then I'm going to link the stat block to the image just in case. Because if I ever have to, you know, it's right there. Now what's cool is I already got the mist on it. Yeah, I had this thing all played up, so we'll just use this. And then I will put Lilith as her name. So when I share this, it's just going to share her name. She'll introduce herself, and then her name is Lilith. So I don't know if I trust her though. It's just too good looking and just way too spooky looking. I think I'd be freaked out. All right, so that's that. That's that. So we got everything set up here. All the parsing works. Spider climb. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna make those encounters. So stat block, go to the back, Children of the Night, and then I'm gonna go to these encounters. So we want the NPCs, which we have, and then encounters are right underneath there. So what I want to do is create a new encounter, and this is going to be the bats, and I'll just say COTN. I'll be lazy. Children of the Night bats, and then I'll drag that NPC entry in here. So that was, let's see, Lilith, Night Wolf, Plague Rat, Shadow Bats right there. Okay, and it said 2d4, so what we can do with that is we can either set this up as a static amount, or we can create it as a random encounter, which I think is probably the better way to go. So I'll just leave that like this, just in case I want to use it for an individual thing. But if you go to random, and then you click on this new group, you can grab that particular NPC, so the Shadow Bat, and then put 2d4 for the dice expression, and then that would be the Children of the Night, comma, bats. And then I'm going to make a group, because I don't have one yet for the random ones. So I'm going to put horror content, or whatever I call that, horror creatures. Because I'm going to make others. I'm going to make like Frankenstein and all kinds of stuff. Werewolves, horror creatures. But this is just my own kind of spin on them. So, alright, so what's nice about when you make your own is you get more familiar with the content. So you kind of know. I mean, you don't remember everything, but it's so much easier once you've gone to this point, because then you know where everything is, you know what to expect. You're not opening up a stray stat block and get surprised by what it has on there, and you know, all that good stuff. It's kind of like you're prepping as you go, in a sense. So that's one of the Children of the Night. So I could take that and link it to the back of this, and that way when it comes time for that to go down, I don't have to dig for it, you know, it's already done. So I'm going to go with this and Children of the Night again, but this is going to be the rats, the plague rats. And it's the same quantity, so that's no big deal. So come over here, go to the plague rats, drag and drop that here, change that to 2d4. And we're golden. So there's the rats. So I'm going to go ahead and link that here. So she can do this once per day. So I want to put that on there so that it's convenient. So I don't have to look at the front sheet of the stat block while I'm there. Let me make sure that matches what we have. Yeah, once per day. So Lilith magically calls 2d4 swarms of bats or rats, provided that the sun isn't up. So she can only do it in darkness, which is fine by me. That makes sense. And it's right there. So whenever I want to do these, I can just hit generate and then send it straight to the combat tracker, and it's ready to go. So that way, when you're playing, you're not digging through all the story entries and the, you know, this stuff, the encounters. It's all right there. So I think I'm going to call it a night. You guys have a good rest of your weekend. Is it Sunday already? Yes, it is. Hopefully that helps you guys in the future if you're going to create content. And in this case, I was doing the vampire stuff, but this would apply to anything that you do in Fantasy Grounds. So getting familiar with the content, creating your own images, you know, your own theme, got your own tokens, you know, all that stuff. That's where it's at, because it's definitely a labor of love. It's not something you're going to do overnight, and you can really make it simple on yourself if you take the time to do all the tokens, all the artwork, all the labeling, all the organization up front, and then prepare the text for your stat blocks. And then all you're doing at that point is where I'm at right now, is just kind of copying and pasting and associating the artwork and the stuff with the stat blocks, and then kind of making the encounters and stuff. So that's the fun part. The work was that I had to generate all those stat blocks, because if you look here, there's probably what, a half a dozen. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's like 9 or 10 different stat blocks here, and I think I want to make the one for the awakened shrubs. So I forgot about that, but I'm not going to make those unique. I'm just going to make a copy of that. Let me see if that's part of the SRD. I hope so. If not, I'm going to have to make my own version of it. I don't remember. AWA. Yeah, it's part of the bestiary. So these awakened trees and shrubs, that Treant, that big badass guy, he can summon these, so I'll make another encounter with those. And then I'll just put one of each, and then when he does the summoning, it'll be right. So I'll do like 2d2 or something weird like that. Anyhow, this is it's been a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy Fantasy Grounds and learn how to use it. Put the time in, because that's really what it takes. You got to practice, got to use it, got to start learning where stuff is, and you got to learn the tools that they give you and the resources and all that stuff. So take care, everyone. Happy Sunday.